All right. Well, we're on our way to church. We got to make good time because we've got 20 minutes to get there. Let's see here. Okay. Battery's on. Engine started. 939 miles. Okay, so let the record show. Okay, brakes are off. Yes. Why does it feel like the brakes are on? I don't know. Okay. Oh, I gotta remember that nut I gotta get someday. I had to drop a nut off of the spare tricycle. Muddy. It's muddy day. Bring my jacket. Held it down. Hoot-manic. Look at this muddy mess here. I may actually bypass that. That looks too muddy for me to go through. I don't want to be all muddy when I go to sing my song today. Oh, I'm singing at church? Yeah, that's a good deal. I'm singing, I wonder if I could just, this is the way I made. I suppose, who knows, it might be faster. I don't know, we'll try it. Anyway, I forgot my jacket. Okay, what now? Oh yeah, I'll fly away. Boy, we had a big discussion yesterday about that. I made the comment that falling is flying. So I might change the words, if I might have changed the words, to I'll fall away, oh glory, I'll fall away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fall away. And the statement, to me, falling is flying, has much more deeper connotations than the obvious physical truth of it. It's exactly equivalent of if you are not born again, you cannot see the kingdom of heaven all around you. And if you haven't taken that fall, then you don't really see it, I think, maybe. That's what I'm thinking. Anyway, I'm not going to sing it that way. It's just a profound statement that, another thing that, boy, it drives my son Elijah crazy, stuff like this. Oh boy, poor fella. Oh boy. Did you imagine having a dad like me? That poor kid. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I gotta get to church. Some bright morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a place where joy shall never end. I'll fly away, and I'll fall away, oh glory, I'll fall away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fall away. Hey, I'll fall away, oh glory, I'll fall away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. And I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away in the morning. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fall away. If nothing else, I'm very controversial, at least for my boy. Drives him up a wall. Poor kid. If something happens to me, y'all take care of him, okay, please? He's a good boy, good man. About as good as can be, I guess.
Okay, this is Community Hour. I'm Janet Smith, and I'm here with Charles Fetty, who I met some time ago. Anyway, he's here in the studio, and he wanted to chat about Petco and the steel mill. And so he's going to give us some information today. Welcome, Charlie. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Janet.
Yeah. So what is the thing? First, let's have a little background about you, because you came in with a guitar. You're a musician.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I like to think I am. That's another thing, but
But you've been playing for a while, or?
Yeah, my whole life. It's
Okay.
therapy for me.
Yeah.
It's not a public thing. It's recently. I've always tried to go public, but it's just never really worked out.
Yeah.
And,
Okay. Are you from Pueblo originally?
Yes, ma'am.
Born and raised?
Born and raised.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And my understanding is you worked at the steel mill.
My surname, the Fetty name, has logged 200 years of dedicated service in the steel mill, and I myself had 28 years when I was the president of the local 2102 union, and it's both sides, the international union and the company, decided that I had to go.
And so when was this? So they let you go?
I became president in 2015, and I think they had me pretty well gone by 2017. I hung on as long as I could.
And so what were you union over, 2102? What?
Production and maintenance employees in the steel mill.
Oh, okay. And before that, you actually worked in the steel mill?
28
as well?
years, yeah.
Okay.
I'm a veteran, too, a Navy veteran.
Well, thank you for your service. Appreciate that, as I'm sure everybody else does as well.
I don't usually claim that, but here recently it's become valuable to me to point that out, so I'm actually shamefully using it. I don't really like to talk about it too much.
Yeah, my husband's also a military veteran.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. But, well, how long did you serve in the Navy?
I got out early. They kicked me out too. It's kind of a theme in my life. I'm not a mixture kind of a person or a uniform kind of person.
Are you a rebel?
Yeah, I'm an individual. I have been since I was born.
Yeah.
And the collective always, it's their mission. That's what a collective's mission is.
So are you from a big family?
Yeah,
I'm just wondering.
It's a tight family. The Fetty family, if you're a Fetty and you're anywhere in this area, we're all relatives.
And siblings? How many siblings?
Oh, I had 2 brothers and a sister. And,
okay. Well, the reason I asked,
still have a brother and a sister, and
I'm always curious if it's the middle child.
Oh no, I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. Okay, of 4. Okay, so you're at the steel mill, and now who was it owned by when you were there?
I went through 4 name changes, I think. Let's see here. Siep&I Steel Corporation became Siep&I Steel LP, became Oregon Steel Mills, became renamed as the Rocky Mountain Steel Mills, and then Evraz.
Evraz.
Yes, and the history is fascinating. And this is something that the city council and me have been headbutting about, and Petco, is who owns the steel mill.
Yeah.
You know the Ukraine war. You know about that,
yeah.
I'm sure. They don't seem to know about it.
Well,
they don't want to know about
it. But what does Ukraine have to do?
Exactly. It's so fascinating.
Right?
It's so fascinating. In 2004, the labor dispute had went on for 7 years. It was just shy of 7 years.
What was the dispute about? Wages?
There was a human rights strike. It was over forced overtime.
Better working conditions? Is that what they were?
It was there was 3 issues, and the one was an international issue, is because they wanted to organize the Portland plant, and put it under the steelworkers too, because they had lost that in the history of Oregon Steel. They used to be a closed union shop, and they were defeated, and it was non-union, and so they kind of had a little bit of grudge there, and
Okay.
Oregon Steel Mills had purchased the steel mill, and that was a big deal too. It was a long story. It's all such a long, convoluted, long story. My family's been involved in it all the way back, though. And the interesting thing is in 2004, the strike all of a sudden had to end. Both sides of the international union and the company agreed that whatever was going to happen, that the strike had to end, and they wouldn't really say why, but they overrode both the local union presidents, Jeannie Landreth and Ernest Hernandez, who had issues that they wanted, especially being empowered with an immediate ending of the strike. That should have given them a lot of leverage to get some of the things they wanted done. No, they paid everybody off. They overrode them, and they brought them all in for a big celebration and paid. It's the way it goes. Anyway, if you have money and power, you can do stuff like that.
Well, that's just
And
about for anything.
and where they got the money and power is the interesting story. It came from Russia. Evraz filed the paperwork with the Securities and Exchange in 2004 for the purchase of the steel mill. And not just that steel mill. The Pueblo steel mill is the biggest asset involved in the purchase, but it involves several steel mills on the North American continent.
So why did they go through the Securities Commission? Were they a public company?
Because they're a foreign country.
Oh, okay. So
And
they
our
have to
steel mills,
claim-
just like what's going on, right now it's the same thing as going on with Japan. Japan is buying U.S. steel, or trying to. Nippon is basically it. And the Russians and the Chinese, we ship more money overseas than we keep here. Pallets and pallets of cash.
Well, that's been going on for a long time.
Forever,
and
and
that's why-
exactly, and now we have to pay the price. Every other country in the world has more cash than we have of our own money.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what's going on. And,
But
and the
it's-
steel mill is being taken from the Russians and given to the Nazi in Ukraine in order to kill Russians. This
Well,
is
what do you mean taken from the Russians?
stolen. It's being the
Russia
war.
owns it, right? Evraz, you're saying
Evraz
is
owns
a
it,
Russian?
but nobody can say that. Nobody in the PEDCO or the city council or anywhere, or basically, it's kind of a taboo subject throughout the city, is what I can see. Nobody wants, blah, 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 I don't want to know. The steel mill employees don't know who they're negotiating contracts with. They don't know who owns it. Nobody knows. The union won't say, the
Well, there have
council
to be
won't
ways
say.
to find out through.
I
public records.
know. And I don't ask questions unless I know the answer. And the answers mean something then. You know what I mean? And the fact that they cannot say so, or that they cannot, it implicates.
So where do you get the information on Japan wanting to buy?
It's all over the news right now.
Okay.
President Trump's happened to deal with it because it was a big deal under Biden's administration. It's an incredible amount of money. We're talking.
We're talking more than just Evraz, then. Are you talking
No, it has nothing to do with it. It's U.S. steel. It's a purchase of U.S. steel, the biggest steel maker in the North American continent.
And where are they located?
And all over. I think Pittsburgh primarily, but I'm not really sure. It's the biggest U.S. steel. It's U.S. steel.
So I did find this article, and Charlie, of course, you're correct. Joe Biden actually on January 3rd blocked nearly $15 billion proposed deal for Nippon Steel of Japan to purchase the Pittsburgh-based U.S. Steel. The proposed deal kicked up an election year political maelstrom across America's industry heartland, and blocking it drew the threat of litigation from Nippon Steel. But the U.S. said, we need major U.S. companies representing the major share of U.S. steelmaking capacity to keep leading the fight on behalf of America's national interests. Biden said this right before leaving office. So Nippon Steel was trying to merge with U.S. Steel, and they were not happy about the decision that Biden made.
The reason that they're even considering is like they did back then is because it's so much money.
Well,
Money
especially if we're going
talks
to go
in
to
in
rail.
this nation. Money talks, and it's steel.
Okay, so
It's,
I thought we were highly competitive with China when it came to steel. Is that not true?
This,
'Cause-
no, the sad thing is, like you say, it's been going on for years, is that places like the Pueblo Steel Mill buy a lot of their tools and its tooling, most of it probably, from places like China. And where's cheapest? It's business. It's a, if you're going to stay in business, you got to.
Oh. Just for our listeners, we're talking with Charlie Fetty, and this is Community Hour. I'm Janet Smith, and we're talking about today Avres, and we're going to touch on Petco too. Now, you went in front of City Council the other day, and
I've been there several times.
public forum?
Yes.
Okay. And so what was the purpose or your mission in going to City Council?
I want to know if it is really okay with Pueblo and Pueblo's leaders and authorities that the Pueblo Steel Mill, I highly suspect, is being stolen from the Russians and actively given to their enemy, the Nazi in Ukraine, who are torturing and murdering and tormenting and terrorizing the Russian civilian Christians.
So,
Now, is Pueblo really okay with that? I want to know.
Well,
I want to hear them
so-
say that they're okay with that.
yeah. So where's the information that you derive this from? I have my own views on Ukraine. I think
Everybody does. It's
Yeah.
the borderland.
well, a lot of people supported the thing. I thought we could have gotten peaceful talks. I think if somebody like Trump had been in,
we made
would have.
sure that there was no peace. We won't allow peace. All the way back from 2014, I don't know if you know about the slaughters, and we supplied all that. And the first thing went after was the Russian Christian Unionist, the Union Hall. They surrounded it and they burned 50 to 100 people, nobody knows, as they tried to escape from the building. And this is the police and everybody with the guns and stuff that
This
McCain and Graham had just brought and delivered in their first aid package.
How do you get pertinent information that's honest and factual? Because there are all kinds of stories you hear, okay? And one thing I know for sure is we never get the truth, okay? Because there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes there. And I know there were some German soldiers who were moved to Ukraine after the war. And I know there's a lot of Russians that live in Ukraine as well. And so I think that, there's a story there that people don't understand. And the fighting has been going on for a long time. And, I don't know Putin. I kind of watch him and I think he, like any leader of a country, he wants to protect his country. But, as far as the invasion of Ukraine, my understanding was, he said, as long as NATO didn't come to his borders, he would be fine with not, going to war, doing any further advancement. But they didn't. And then it became a big issue. And I don't know how much the U.S. had to play in that, because sometimes we're very antagonistic when we want a certain thing. And I know that Ukraine is filled with all kinds of minerals. And so there's a lot of resources there that a lot of different countries are trying to get their hands on. And so then you always wonder, what is the real reason, right? What's going on behind the scenes, and what is it that we want? Usually it's a resource of some sort. So I don't know. So I'm trying to find out when you make a statement like Nazis, how is that confirmed, and where do you get your information?
Zelensky, Vladimir Zelensky, the president, the illegal president, he ended, the first thing he did was end elections.
Yeah, I know. I was mortified.
And closed down all the Christian churches and made Christianity illegal in Ukraine. Okay, so people don't, Pueblo, are you okay with that? And he is an Ashkenazi Jew.
Oh, he is.
Yes, and most of your modern Jewish world is Ashkenazi. And the roots of the word, what's the first thing you notice about the word Ashkenazi?
I guess we'll sit in
Nazi.
silence and consider it.
It's the root of the word Nazi. Ashen white Nazi, or Ashen white Jews, who, this is a long story, the history of Ukraine, this is what we're going to get to, is they were the primary signature, they were the first signatures on the USSR
Conviction.
agreement
I
that
challenge
formed the USSR, which your husband is a Cold War warrior. We were in that, you know. Ukraine is as Russian gets. It was formed at the end of World War II by taking parts of Poland and Germany and parts of Russia and forming this new, you know, Ukraine translates as borderland. It's the borderland where, you know, everything's in question, you know. Who are we going by and what's, you know,
Fetty, we're not going to just sit
and
here in
whatnot.
silence. If you have other things to say,
I have this
please
amount of
do.
I think the world has long been known for, especially the U.S., putting folks in leadership positions. They have a certain method they've used for years and years and years.
Otherwise,
And,
we'll move on to the next.
you know, it's part of
Okay.
maybe a bigger plan, I don't
Why
know.
won't
But
you talk to me about this? Why won't you answer my emails? Why won't
I
you
think there's a
act like
lot
I
of
exist?
unfairness when it comes to elections, and I don't think the people have the actual vote that they think
They don't
have.
want democracy. They don't want real democracy. They want to say democracy, but it can't be democracy. It has to be where the few dictate to the many. They won't let the many dictate to the
that I
few.
legally have.
And modern warfare, this is where I can enlighten you a little bit because I've been a part of this. Modern warfare now isn't so much the ships and tanks and planes, not the way the U.S. plays. We have protest. We send in protesters. And every protest, that's something I found out. I've participated in protests all over this
I have
country.
1 minute left.
And you're usually all worked out. Everything's all agreed to beforehand. We're going to do this with this many people. You're going to have this many cops on overtime. You're going to arrest this many. And this is going to, don't arrest these people, but arrest these ones, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's all kind of worked out ahead of time. Everything's kind of, I know. I was part
Well,
of
I've
that.
seen a little bit of
With
that
the union,
myself.
I did that, yes. And no, in modern warfare, when we're not getting our guy like in Argentina or anywhere, we send in protesters, and not like we do here. It's an irony that we have protesters here. They get college kids basically, and when I was doing it, they dress them up in ninja pajamas basically and send them in, and they herd these folks into kill zones. And it's a great deal of fun for them and a great deal of chance to try out their new stuff. You know, they've got some great stuff that they can, and it's terrible. It's just terrible. But that's modern warfare. That's what we're doing. That's what we did in Ukraine. That's what McCain and Graham were doing when they were there in 2014. And the Odessa massacre happened directly after they left. And it was, you just have to, we didn't get to hear about that. But that was when I was trying to become president of the union, and I was aware. I've always
And where was this Odessa massacre?
in Ukraine,
In Ukraine.
on the borderland between Russia, and it was the Russian-speaking unionists who they surrounded and burnt alive and beat them with rebar, the ones that were still kicking. I watched a 50-year-old woman trying to crawl out of a third-story window onto some scaffolding to get away, and a young fella jumped up there with a Molotov cocktail and smashed it in her face. And then they beat her with rebar till she quit kicking.
And so
That was video that they were proud of.
now who are you talking about that was doing this?
The people that Graham, the Zelensky's bunch, the Nazis, they took control of Ukraine for us because of the money. And right now, you know, Trump stopped the money. It looks like he stopped the money temporarily, at least to
Well,
Ukraine.
we send a lot of money.
Well, the
think
first thing that
$200
came
billion.
up is their whole government depends on that money. Not just their government, every media service, every single thing that goes on in Ukraine, me and you are paying for. With things like the steel mill. Now, this is where it gets down to the nitty
Let's
gritty.
go back to the steel mill because I'm curious to say, okay, so Alvarez bought.
That's what the strike, the end of the strike brought the Russians to Pueblo. They settled the strike. And now the Home of Heroes is a part of this. The whole Ukraine war basically kind of started then. That's the fact of it.
So, where do you see it going now? Is Alvarez still the owner of? You're
there's-
saying it's convoluted. You don't
They,
know.
no, I know what I know is that there is 300 billion, I think, in Russian frozen assets stolen assets that have been seized in 2000 and whenever they started and whenever they did it, they
What,
took
the
it all.
Ukraine war?
It was about 2000. It was right after the Russians paid $500 million for the new rail mill. They took that $500 million before and out of here. Bye. We're at war, eminent domain, whatever. Bye. Thanks for the $500 million. And now the rail mill stands. It's not completed. And the first thing is the scallywags started suing each other. Anyway, they did things that I would have never done if I would have been there as the president. I would have never allowed it to be contracted out if I could have. We can do our own stuff and we can own it. That's what my point is. We don't have to be owned. My idea when I was president at the EPA, we had a meeting and they were talking about the land at the mill it had no agricultural or useful purpose left, industrial purpose left, because it had been dumped all this stuff and everything. Yeah. And I said, well, what about a solar farm? And we got started on that. And the solar farm, the 200 megawatt solar farm out there, that was mine. They took it from me and gave it to British Petroleum. Pueblos aren't allowed to own anything, and not even Americans. It's British Petroleum.
So where does Petco come into play?
Oh my goodness!
Now,
Petco became into existence in the 80s at the end when when Reagan came into power, and all of a sudden the economy's, and I had to join the service, and probably Jimmy did too. I don't know about that, but here in Pueblo it was like 10 or 15,000 people on the streets in one big layoff and told me not coming back. Kind of is my understanding, and. If you can just imagine the turmoil that caused, some get to stay, the rest of you got to go.
So this is when Everest bought it?
No, this is way back in the 80s.
Oh, in the 80s, when it was in its prime?
When Reagan came into the presidency and shut down the air traffic controllers. Unions were a thing of the past all of a sudden. And their power was neutered. It was, and anyway, that was the thing about, the mill has such a history. People don't talk about Pueblo's history back to about 1860, but they kind of forget about 1854. There was a massacre of every man, woman, child on Christmas of Fort Pueblo.
Just for our listeners, we are talking to Charlie Fetty, and this is KOYC Radio 98.5 FM. I'm Janet Smith. I'm going to continue our conversation right now.
And Pueblo's where the rivers cross, Pueblo's, that's where you build steel mills. They had a massacre that eliminated all claims on the land. And like 20, 25 years later, they're rolling the first rail west of the Mississippi. And it worked out pretty good. That's the way things, the part of history that, it makes you wonder. It's like, they blamed it on the Ute Indians, but it sure worked out good for some folks,
Well, it's interesting because the disaster that we had in North Carolina, there was somebody that said there were lithium in the mountains, and right at
It's just coming out now that Gaza the whole Abrahamic Accords that Jared Kushner got signed while President Trump was president last time. Basically, I was trying to tell everybody back then, all it is a New York eviction notice for Gaza. Eviction or elimination, whatever you want to say. That they're going to go because we're going to do some real estate development.
Well, I think
that's what they're just confirming now. President Trump is saying, basically the operation's almost over. Let's finish it up and start with our, there's going to be some both Jared and him. That's the way New Yorkers, they do things the New York way, It's a New York real estate. People do things the New York real estate way, and that's what they're doing.
I'm trying to find the tie here to New York. So what are you saying about?
The Abrahamic Accords were done by Jared Kushner, who is a New York realtor.
Okay. And what is that accord?
Not a realtor, developer. And so is Trump. It's a.
Okay. And what is that accord? What
the Abrahamic Accords is a basically biblical. You remember when President Trump first became president? He went on a world religious tour. Went to Israel, to Saudi Arabia, and to the Pope, and they signed. That was to get everybody to agree to the Abrahamic Accords, which the word Abrahamic tells you everything a lot there. Anyway. There was only actually Bahrain and another nation in the Arab world that signed on. They're particularly Israel friendly. And it was basically in the name of making Israel okay, getting them to accept Israel, and normalize relations, kind of a thing.
So it was like a peace
But
component over there where everybody
yeah, it
could
was
agree?
meant to, but it involved Gaza and the West Bank.
Okay.
And basically, it was an eviction notice. It's like, this is
So they wanted
it
Gaza.
legalized the genocide that's going on in Gaza. It legalized it. It's all
Yeah.
legal. It's legal. And the
Wow.
Abrahamic Accords set that up. Abraham in the Bible is not. He didn't start out as Abraham. He started out as Abram, and his name was changed to Abraham. Ham was added to his name. That's very important. It's that's a long story too. I don't want to get
So,
too far off subject.
In your opinion, then, what is the Gaza Strip? What do they want to do with that? Because I have a different understanding.
Well, I think the biggest plan is to have another canal. The one canal they got isn't quite big enough, and they want to basically be able to charge on every ship that goes through.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. I think they
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
run an
but
oil pipeline through.
Oh yeah,
there,
but it's
too.
going to be a nice place to be. I mean, it's going to be like Dubai or something. It's going to be, oh boy,
Yeah.
oh great. But the Indians got to go or whatever. That's
It's
what they
always
do.
the poor people that pay the price for these
Right,
crazy things. So
right.
going back to Pueblo, and Pedco, give me your summary of what you think is going on there.
I
You're not a
suspect-
fan of Pedco?
No, I never have been. All the way back, it was formed in that turmoil that happened when the mill laid off so many, and they were able to sell it to Pueblo in the way that this is what happens when you've got a primary employer. It goes to, and everybody goes down with it.
Right.
And it was a valid point. Everybody took it to heart back then, and the turmoil. The union was powerful in the 60s and 70s particularly. They were dictating as much to the company as the company was dictating to the union.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't like that, and the people who founded Pueblo, particularly, or Pedco, they don't,
Yeah.
the union thing is.
Well, their primary role was to bring primary jobs to Pueblo,
Well,
to
that's what they
entice
said.
companies
That's
to
what
come
they
here.
said. Right.
Yeah.
It was formed in the name of making the mill no longer the primary employer in Pueblo. That was the biggest selling point. To diversify away from the steel mill,
So
and to bring in other businesses. Now I just want to say that people, that what they don't talk about is what Pedco basically does in that, trying to do that, is they sell Pueblo to other businesses. How do you bring them in? What do you offer? You offer cheap slave labor. You offer
free
a
rent.
tax base that will pay all your bills for you.
Yeah.
That's what you sell. That's all you got. That's what Pedco is. They're slave traders, and nobody really gets that. And we're paying them to do it. That's the irony of it. And in 2016, when I was the president, I didn't bring the letter in. You can see all the stuff on my Facebook over and over again. I've been going through this for so long, Janet. Sorry. So long.
Well, there's a few folks, I think, that have tried to redirect the funds. They have 60 million, I think, upwards of 60 million.
More than enough to purchase the steel mill. That's what I'm trying to tell them. Pedco was a mistake.
Oh, you think
This is my biggest thing, is Pedco was a mistake anyway. And there's more than enough money there. And in fat times, it's forks and spoons. But when the lean times come, the knives come out. And we're in lean times now because of the way our leadership and the way that everything's went. That's why we're where we're at. Things like Pedco. We've done nothing but go downhill from what we were when we were the steel city. See, that's what they don't want to talk about, is they want businesses to come here. But the thing that brings businesses here is if there's money here.
Yeah.
That's what brings businesses. That's the simple fact of it. And in order to bring money in, you have to make a product that the world needs or wants. And the steel mill is our deal. It's a godsend.
Well,
God
we
has
have
given us a gift.
rail and we have airlines and we have all of the transportation ones. I mean, it's a perfect location for, you know, uh, that kind of thing. I'm not sure why Pueblo wouldn't look at maybe taking the steel mill. Well, I don't think.
They want to steal it. Why pay for it when you can steal it because of the war? That's what I say is going on. Petco is attempting. They're using. I gave them the idea back in 2016. I claimed the mill for the employees in the city of Pueblo, acting as an official of the union, as the president.
Could they take
I
it
had
public?
authority.
Could they make it a public
I made
entity?
public and private offers to. I tried to stop the Russian purchase. That's another thing. I was the only one who I know of who did, because there was so much money, and I could not stop them. I was able to delay it from 2004 to 2007, and I forced them to come to Pueblo like we actually mattered and talk and address us at the Union Hall as if we actually mattered. But I did force them to do that, and they did do it, and they hated every minute of
So
it.
why did Russia want that plant? Why was
It's so interesting. I would like to know. I wanted to know back then. I saw it as a security issue, selling our steel mill to a foreign country, and my city, the home of heroes. I was against it. But like I said, it was so much money, I couldn't stop it. I wrote senators. I wrote the president. I went crazy, but I couldn't stop it. It was like there's too much money.
So how many are employed there?
$32.3 billion. And that was a lot of money in 2004.
Yeah.
We weren't
How-
doing, billions.
How many employees are there right now?
It's hard to say. They've locked me out so badly. I don't even think they're allowed to say my name in the mill for legal reasons. I think I don't know. But when they done what they done to me, I basically seems like I lost every friend I had out there, every boss and manager that I worked with, every union brother and sister. The same thing again, just too much money, too much money and power.
So what is your solution to the Petco thing? Do you think it should?
End Petco, and there's more than enough. I'm telling you that 1 million will start the negotiations, and Abramovich is, he's the one who owns the majority of Evraz North America, which is where it's getting tricky, because Evraz North America is not Evraz RU Russia.
Oh, okay. There's two entities?
And basically, yeah, there's a North American entity and there's the Russian parent company. And they're just like Russians, the war, forget about it, you're all dead, basically. We're going to kill you. Or we're going to take Putin out, Our war is with Putin. It's so funny watching Graham and McCain telling them, our war is not with the Russian people. Our war is with Putin. It's like, somebody should have asked him, it's like, how come you keep killing so many Russians then? How come you just don't kill Putin?
Well, wars are getting a little more complex now too, and we have now, biological warfare. So
Well, we're doing all that in Ukraine. You know about the biological
yeah,
labs.
well, I know they had, I think, more labs there.
How much is Russia supposed to put up with?
Yeah,
How many
Well,
missiles are we going to send
and
into
I
their
guess
country
this is-
before we're going to get one in ours?
yeah.
It's a
This is, I think, why, when people don't have the proper information, and I don't even know if I do, you may not have proper
no.
information.
None of us
either.
do. All of us see our perspective.
But you try to piece it together, and we shouldn't have to do that as Americans. We should be able to have transparency. It's all the taxpayers' money that goes to these things.
It's
So
all
the
about
tax-
a narrative. A narrative.
Yeah, and I think, would the taxpayers, if somebody came door to door and said, I need, $300 for every household for Ukraine, would people just fork that over? But because it's money you don't see, and really, once you pay your taxes, you have no control over the money. It's going to all kinds of things. And I would say, thank God for this Doge thing, because I really do think we need an oversight and a Ginsu knife to go up against, with the spending, because it's gotten so crazy.
President Trump will be signing for quadrillions, not trillions, quadrillions. That's happening. That's going to be happening in this term. And trillions is more than anybody can really
Fathom.
fathom. quadrillions, it's 1,000 of them.
Well, yeah, I don't know where they draw the line. I think the Federal Reserve,
Well, there's
I
no
think it'd
drawing
be
the
smart
line.
to get rid of
They
the...
can't. They cannot stop it because everything will crash if they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like when the similar things have happened, it's never really happened to I guess it has happened to world powers, so there's precedent. But the smaller countries like Greece and whatnot, when they've overprinted, basically saying we've got all this money, we need money, so we'll just print some more, and we'll pay for this and pay for that
Yeah.
and everything.
It's their demise.
It ends in a terrible, devaluation of everything. It's where we may be within these years ahead. We may be looking at hundreds of dollars for a loaf of bread. It happened in Germany too, and we're following such a precise path as Germany with the Nazis. I'm just going to say
Well,
so.
they have to get control of the debt. There's no doubt about that. And I don't think people would disagree with that, to say, come on, let's rein it in a
Well,
little.
that's the thing is there's no doing that. They cannot do that. It will crash the system. That's the reality that nobody can talk about.
So let me ask you this, because I saw your public forum. I watched the public forum on City Council, and your comment that something about creating third world war. What did you mean by that?
Basically, the Home of Heroes is involved in this all the way back to 2004 when the Russians came and stopped the strike, settled our strike, and gave us generously spent billions, basically, essentially billions. And the Home of Heroes, how do we repay them? We take everything they gave us, and their yachts, and everything else. Get out of here.
Yeah.
And we're going to hire a Nazi to go kill your kids for you, to burn them alive. That's
Wow.
what's going on. And I want to know if the Home of Heroes is actually okay with that. And if PEDCO is acting on behalf of another state or nation other than Pueblo, Colorado, we need to know about it, don't we? I think so. I think so.
Well, interesting conversation. There's a lot of things
To consider, yes, ma'am.
to consider. So Charles Fetty has been here interviewing with us, giving us some insight into Abras, the steel mill, and PEDCO, and we thank you for coming and sharing. And you're a musician, so maybe we can go out on a
Oh, I'd love to play a song for you.
song. So you find something that is relevant, and we'll add that on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We started out in an adobe shack, a block away from the railroad track. Daddy worked day and night to get us over to the other side. Many times my mama cried, 3 boys and a girl growing up on the wild side. We were born and bred the American way, made in the USA.
Hey, Carla. There's a good dog. There's a good dog. That's a good dog. Good dogs. Oh. Shall I talk about the roads while we're going over the 18th Street Bridge? You know, we got one 18th Street Bridge 3 times. 2 times this bridge has been rebuilt, at least that I know of, and reworked. From what I understand, it was using money that was supposed to go to the 24th Street Bridge, which would have made us, instead of 1 bridge, we'd have 2 bridges. But we paid for the same 1 bridge 3 times, and we still don't have 2 bridges. We've only got 1. Now, I've seen what they're doing and all that expensive and crazy weird shit where they're over there on the highway I-25, the interstate. And they're going to cross the north and bound traffic twice on that off-ramp where 24th's off-ramp and on-ramp was supposed to be, so that there would be access from I-25 to 24th Street to the boulevard, which going over a bridge on 24th. The 24th bridge was supposed to already been built twice. Anyway, it's still not there. Like I said, we got an 18th Street bridge 3 times. That's great, but we still only got one bridge. And traffic is still, if they'd finished 24th, they would go all the way out to Pueblo West. It would reduce the traffic load on Highway 50 by 50%, literally like 50%. That is huge. That's good. That'll save lives. That'll make life so much nicer. But I see their plans, and they've changed everything again. And now all that business with the crossing left, the north and southbound traffic crossing twice, and all these fancy off ramps and on ramps, and not a single thing connects to 24th. Everything going east from that highway, not west to Pueblo West. What is going on? How can we make it such a big mistake here? I gotta ask. You know, I've been watching these roads, and it just drives me crazy. There's people dying, like on Highway 50. There's people dying all the time and getting maimed in their crashes, and their kids hurt. Everything's it's terrible, and it's because it's ridiculous what you guys have done there. If you want to go this way, you got to go that way, because you can't just go to the intersection and have a light turn, a turning lane. No, you got to have an off ramp and then no turning, and all this business where you got to get off of it and get back on it. And everybody's getting on at the same time you are, and it's every time I get on it, to me it's a masterpiece in confusion. It's like meant to make people confused. It's like if I want to go south on Pueblo Boulevard, I got to get off on the north side. I cannot go to the intersection and turn, because that's not allowed. So I go over there and all this business. Anyway, you don't know that, and then you're going Pueblo West. Sorry about that, buddy. You missed your turn. You can't turn there. There's a good doggy. There's a good doggy. Good doggies. So anyway, I just, you know, there's a nice, simplified, standardized way to do things. And then, you know what? Everybody knows what's happening. It's a lot easier to teach people how to drive. There's no special weird bullshit. Just nice, simple as possible. You know, stay on the left, stay on the right, whatever, you know. Oh my goodness. There's the homestead. Yeah. So anyway, right up here is where we need this 24th Street bridge, see? And it would connect all of Pueblo and Pueblo West and integrate everything. But no. 40 years later, still no. It's like, what the hell? And then they get to doing something, finally, that's awesome. And then they don't put an on-ramp or an off-ramp to go to 24th. And it's like, why? Why? Who owns property where, and they're just trying to mess things up for everybody else because they got some kind of a special, their own interest. Something that doesn't explain, doesn't make a bit of sense. Like I said, both the times we got the 18th Street Bridge, we were supposed to get the 24th Street Bridge, but no, reallocated funds. We're just going to rebuild 18th Street Bridge, pocket a bunch of the money, and everybody else can go to... Anyway, you know what I mean. 23rd, see, 24th up here, be a nice bridge. And a nice thoroughfare all the way out to the boulevard and to Pueblo West on out to Joe Martinez Boulevard. Anyway, I'm just disappointed. Every time, it seems like every time I see the how things are planned out and what they came up with, it just makes me wonder, you know, is anybody overlooking this stuff with any kind of common sense, or is it just everybody, you know, getting their input? We got to do this, we got to do that, we can't, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then everybody's idea has to work somehow. And yeah, we're going to cross north and southbound traffic twice. And we're going to have off ramps and on ramps, but not one of them is going to go to 24th Street. It's going to be nice and confusing and all screwed up good, where everybody's going to be all jacked in. We'll get all kinds of lower population out of that. That's the thing. You guys see the county report on the population, Pueblo's population? And guess what? We're dying. The natives are being depopulated. Birth rate is crashing. The death rate is skyrocketing. And Pueblo's overall population continues to rise because of migration. And they say it's a migration of old folks coming here to die. Basically, this is the death care city now. It's not the steel city. It's the death care city where you come to die. Migrants come to die. And the natives is dying faster than anybody. That's awesome, Pueblo. Good job. I'm being sarcastic. I really am. It ain't really funny. But it is what it is. That's the numbers, and who could have told you? Who's been telling you about the depopulation shots? Obedience mask. Don't listen to Charlie. Whatever you do, don't like and share Charlie's stuff, because everybody knows. Everybody knows, and if they see you around Charlie, seeing you liking Charlie's stuff, everybody will know. Everybody will know. I don't know what they'll know, but they'll know it, because nobody will tell me. Everybody's in on the game, but not me. When it comes to Charlie Fetty, Charlie gets to say very little about what Charlie Fetty's doing. Everybody else seems to want to have the input. Let's try it here. Muddy, here we go. Try not to get too muddy. Oh, slipping and sliding. Woo. Muddy. Oh, going through the mud. Oh, let's turn down the mud. Not too bad. Not too terrible. Good job, tricycle. Good job, scooter. Love my scooter. My leg is freaking out. It's all tingly. I don't know what I've done. My leg's like falling asleep or something. Tingly. That's weird. I don't know if I'm going to lose all my Frosty. I love Frosties. What are you doing out here, Missy? What are you doing out here, Chickie Poo? What are you doing out there? Does the chickies want to come out? Sounds like the chickies want to come out. They don't feel like coming out. Man, looks like a disaster. My light on. Got our Wendy's. Look at all that mud. Muddy. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. The Wendy's, we love the Wendy's.
Well, God bless us and keep us, please. All of us. Even you scallywags.